Okay.
Okie dokie.
Hello and welcome to Inside the Avatar Studio. Inside the Avatar Studio brings together innovative leaders from the virtual frontier to discuss perceptions, perspectives, and predictions of what being virtual means in today's society. Our guest speakers discuss current issues and trends surrounding the implications of their virtual experiences based on their own areas of subject matter expertise. I'm one of your hosts, Kevin Feenan, and with us today, we also have our other host, Renee Brock, and Pooky Amsterdam, our featured guest for today. I'd like to kick things off with this month's perspectives piece. What I'd like to actually talk about is a little bit about experiential learning. This is something that has been, I guess, sort of part of my life for quite, almost my entire life. But quite often we don't necessarily know exactly what experiential learning is. Is it hands-on learning? Is it learning in workshops? Is it reflective learning? There's all kinds of different definitions of what experiential learning is, depending upon what industry or what group you happen to be a part of. One of the key pieces of theory and literature that has been around for several years is this idea that experiential learning is really the reflective component of outdoor education or things on which practical experience is based. Quite often this is referred to as concrete experience. Those things that you experience in everyday life, right? If you put your, as a kid, right, you're told, don't touch the stove, it's hot, right? Of course, you don't believe it until you've done it, right? So, that's concrete experience, those things that you see. The other way that quite often, the bit of a silly way that we describe this sometimes is, sometimes those experiences are explicit, such as the child putting their hand on or near the stove. Sometimes they're more tacit oriented, such as learning to change a light switch or how to change a fuse on the light box because you're the one holding the flashlight as your dad or your mom is doing that particular task. So there's lots of opportunity for concrete experience and being reflective of the observations that you find as part of doing these particular things. Quite often, experiential learning is really a question of social engagement. It's not, while it can be a individual pursuit more often than not, especially in outdoor education, we have these social engagement components. It's no fun to go sailing on your own. It's always fun to go sailing in a group. Learning how to paddle a canoe or to ski down a hill or to do first aid, right? Well, first aid you never do just on your own, right? But small groups, quite often learning by example, learning by the exemplars that others present. So, this idea that experiential learning is just simply hands-on learning is really not the beans-all and ends-all of where these particular, how we get the most out of the learning experience. Right? There is, beyond the concrete experience itself, there's the reflective observation of what it is that you have experienced, right? But beyond that, it needs to go a few steps beyond. We need to be able to abstract or to be able to conceptualize what the implications of that mean. How does that experience translate into something which is a repeatable, positive pattern of behavior that can then be applied to other challenges of a similar type and to have a similar outcome. And of course, the only way that you can validate that is through active experimentation, actually taking that conceptualization and doing something with it. So it's all well and good to watch somebody paddle a canoe and to say, okay, well, I could maybe do that, right? It's sometimes another thing to put the paddle into the water, right, and to still make the canoe go straight. That active experimentation, playing around with what these opportunities provide. So really, when we're talking about experiential learning, we're really talking about two distinct components. One is the nature of the hands-on learning, whether it's through observation or whether it's through doing. Right? And then there's the reflective process in terms of how we then incorporate that into adjusting our own way of coming up with solutions to problems. There's huge opportunity with regards to experiential learning, which is currently not really being exploited. And especially in areas like some of the things that we're looking at here with Rockcliffe, with regards to things like conferences. So one of the things that we're doing with our upcoming conference happening this November is we're trying to embed more opportunities for experiential-based learning. These are not necessarily things that can be done in a 30-minute workshop. Right? While you can go through the motions of these things, it's really between the reflective process and the active experimentation. These are things that need to evolve over time, which is why experiential learning tends to work very well for things such as outdoor education, but also work well in places such as hackathons, other opportunities where people have an opportunity that they can work on things from a project-based perspective, right, where you have time to not only absorb and reflect, but also apply what it is that you've been learning. And quite often we can't necessarily do that in a 30-minute session. But in terms of conferences, in terms of the salient learning that we get out of these particular types of activities, I feel that there's a huge opportunity that we can then take the principles behind experiential learning and re-envision the way conferences are actually planned out in full. So one of the things that we're going to be seeing as part of the conference coming up is opportunities where, in our particular case, obviously the conference is not going to be fully experiential because there's a lot of things that we're experiencing ourselves as part of this. But we're hoping to establish part of the framework for where conferences of the future can be going based upon a lot of these particular principles. And that will mean radically changing over time the concept of how it is that we interact with others as part of a conference-based experience. I'm really looking forward to some of the things that we're planning for this year's conference. I'm really looking forward to opportunities to share and discuss with others a lot of the different mechanisms that we could use in order to really make conferences not just far more engaging, but also more practical in terms of going to these particular types of events and coming away from them with something that is immediately applicable inside a classroom situation or a business situation or a community situation, where the cost of going to something like that is essentially fully refunded back to you in terms of how you can apply these things immediately, like as soon as you get back from going to one of these particular things. So again, I think we're going to be seeing more and more of this as part of some of these perspectives going forward. There's a lot of things that we're going to be experimenting with as we go forward. But certainly, I would love to encourage people to come out to our conference. this November. We have registration is still open until September 30th. We have a few spaces that are still available, and so we really would love to see people come out to the Fort Mason Center down on San Francisco's Fisherman's Wharf, and hopefully get some really good experience and some new ideas, some truly new ideas in terms of what conferences, especially conferences on education and technology, could really provide to people in the right light. So that's my perspective for this month. Hopefully we'll have, like I said, we'll have more to discuss on that a bit later. For right now, I would like to turn things over to my co-host and to our special guest, Renee Brock and Pooky Amsterdam.
Thank you very much, Kevin. I sure appreciate that. And I echo what Kevin's saying about how important it is for us to be part of in-person conferences and be able to participate and actively learn in those spaces. And speaking of professional development and opportunities, we have a great pro with us today, Pooky, who's been with us for a long time and has been a guest on the show before.
Hey, Zinnia, how you doing? It's so great to be here.
Thanks so much for joining us. I also want to thank our audience for joining us today. I sure appreciate you being here as well, and hopefully we'll have an opportunity to open up to the audience some questions as well. So I came up with some questions for you, Pooky, and in many respects you can put some additional information in here that you want to share with my questions. My theme for you was pixels, pearls, and cookies creating sticky virtual experiences.
So are you asking me what happened when I found and attached my first set of pearls in Second Life?
I am asking you that.
Well, let's go with that, because it really took a while to find those pearls, as I truly hit the ground running in Second Life to create the shows, and I didn't even realize for quite a while that I could actually buy jewelry here. Can you believe that? Bevan Whitfield gave me my first pair of good black pants, which were, of course, a lifesaver as a wardrobe staple. I finally found Caroline's, and her pearls were so exquisite. I wore them all the time. I became friends with Gwen Curlin, and she made such beautiful sets of white and dark pearls. They did become my signature set. And so to answer the question, when I attached my first set of pearls, I realized something really important, Zinnia. I had the power to obtain virtual outfit nirvana. Yes.
Excellent.
Pearls are a classic accessory and part of a perfect way for me to dress. I'm kind of the opinion that most people today in real life dress like 13-year-old boys. Being able to distinguish myself visually and be distinguished, well, that's important. Style matters. And I guess the pearls are power-packed because I never look back.
Absolutely. Pearls are an excellent symbol, and they dress up everything. So, I wanted to point out to you that besides your pearls being one of your signatures, I often think about plaid being one of your signature branding elements. So today, for you, I'm wearing one of my plaid dresses. So that leads into my next question. When we think of sticky marketing, brands need to be memorable, consistent, foster affinity, demonstrate trustworthiness, and build an emotional connection. How did you know that that could be translated into virtual experiences?
Is the question that can we have an emotional connection with virtual people?
Yes.
Yes.
Go ahead.
Absolutely.
Go ahead.
Absolutely, Zinnia. We can certainly have an emotional connection, and the fact that we don't have the usual senses before us, such as taste, smell, touch, it means we really have to rely on something much deeper. It's sort of interesting, let's say, if you're in real life and you went out someplace and you saw someone who's very attractive, you would hope that their insides match their outsides, right? But here, what you do is you can connect with people because all they have, or all we have is our voice, all we have is our text. I've heard the criticism of Second Life that everyone is really good looking. Well, hey, that just levels the playing field. You know, you don't have to deal with, are they better looking than me or not? We're all good looking in Second Life. And so it becomes character. It becomes who we are. It becomes how we reach each other on a deep level. That is really part of the emotional connection. And I think part of something that really keeps us coming back.
Absolutely. Fantastic. So another question I have relates to, the folks that may not be in world with us, but they may see some of your work because, a lot of your films are available online for people to experience. So how do you explain virtual engagement to people who just see us as pixels? Pooky, could you hear that? Okay, you can't make out what I'm saying. I'm seeing.
I'm so sorry,
screens.
Zinni. I can't.
Okay.
I kind of didn't get that. I was.
It's
please.
Okay.
Thank you.
It's all, what's nice about this show is that we get to experience educational opportunities. Like, I learned that I need to speak a little louder, not just wear loud.
I know. I'm sorry. I thought we were going to talk about virtual engagement to people who just see us as pixels. I was totally ready for that answer.
It's okay.
Or that question, actually.
And I mix them up too. So.
But that's not even your second question.
Yeah. Well, how about I'm going to do a bird walk away from the questions that I had prepared because something occurred to me while you were talking. So you did a number of shows that had the game show elements. They were live and there was an audience. And one of the things that I try to explain to people, what we do here is, live and it's happening and, our heart is racing and we're panicked and things go wrong, just like right now, right? And, you're always a professional in these experiences. Do you think that using virtual environments is a great place for us to test out things at a low cost and a low barrier for folks?
But how did I get the experience that I had in Second Life?
Yeah, how did you end up, coming in world and realizing that this space is an experience and entertainment at the same time, and that we all learn from it?
Well, I gained the experience in Second Life actually through another virtual world that I had been a part of, and I came into Second Life because first in 2006, because I was looking as to what it was. I had done a lot of performances in this other virtual world. I had put on comedy shows. I had a debate club. I put on Shakespeare. I did the Christmas Carol, and I was looking actually to get financing. I had written a 70-page business plan looking to get financing for something called Studio Dome that would actually be just a performance-based virtual world. And with that performance-based virtual world, I needed to come into Second Life to see what it was like. I was not able to raise the $3 million for Studio Dome, but what I did is I came into Second Life in March of 2008 for a CMP conference, at which point I met Bevan and Paradox Olbers, and I also met somebody who would be extremely important to me, someone named Rob Wag Soothsayer, who I worked with really throughout the entire thing. And with that, Paradox said, he took me to he had a beautiful, beautiful place in the Skylands, and we were watching a performer. And I said to Paradox, he said, gee, I wish I could get more people in here. And I said, gee, I have an idea. I have an idea for a show. And he said, what do you need? And I said, well, I just need this place the same time every week, and I'll build it out. And that's kind of how it started. And I thought, wouldn't it be great? Because I'm of the opinion that scientists are rock stars. I'm a great admirer of engineers, educators, scientists, people who kind of are trying to help us by using our mental power, right, to help us and others. And it was just such an exciting time. I thought of doing a science tech quiz show that would, kind of show how groovy and, God, that's an old world, but how groovy and vital and virile our scientific community is. And it became a lot of fun, and it was known, of course, as the first question. That was what happened. I came in March of 2008, and then the show was actually up by April 2008, True TV, which was wonderful. It was wonderful to have a broadcast network. In fact, there was more than one at that time, and that was how I got started.
Wonderful. And I always say that I got to be on the first question, and I didn't lose. I come in third place. I didn't lose. And what a great experience that you built. It sounds like, in several worlds, but in Second Life as well. So I'm going to rewind to one of my questions that you may have started to answer. And I'm going to put it in chat too, so everyone else can see it. So, how do you explain virtual engagement to people who just see us as pixels?
Okay, great. Thank you. Well, that is a very interesting question, and anybody who's tried to explain Second Life to other people, it's a challenge. So I'd like to tell a story about an early encounter here. In Second Life, during my first real foothold, I realized we had a vast search function. And I started looking for a favorite artist of mine who's Van Gogh. And there was a Van Gogh museum. And so I teleported to it. And as I was moving through it, I saw a painting that Van Gogh did that I had never seen before. It's on the stage here. Van Gogh did a painting of one of my very favorite prints by the Japanese woodblock artist Hiroshige. It's Flowering Plums. And I hadn't known this before. I stumbled upon it in Second Life. I never knew that. And it was only as an avatar able to explore freely and virtually what others had created or imported that I found this. So the virtual experience means if you're curious, you can find and become engaged in really any kind of venture that appeals to you. And even better, you can stumble upon it. Do you understand? I mean, this is where you find yourself. You find yourself by losing yourself. And you can find that which speaks to your core being. And you know that saying about location, location, location? Well, one's PC or Mac is pretty damn close to wherever you are. So you can find that engagement anytime and from anywhere. We are literally and figuratively at our fingertips. But even more than that, we extend beyond them. We can engage as much or as little as we want to. We suspend ourselves, for example, when we watch TV, right? Or you go to a movie. So our ability to suspend some belief is pretty strong. For entertainment, certainly that's so. And being in a virtual environment is a different level of engrossment. One we also don't need, as I spoke before, many of our senses for. This is mainly, it's like a processing of our visual and audible senses, almost like a dream, which we truly buy into fully as humans. So being able to see a virtual environment in front of us on a screen is not really so different from watching any screen. But the difference is we have so much more agency over what we can do here, and what we do here becomes an extension of what we're capable of our imaginations and thoughts. And that gives us, again, a power as a human being that we don't always have in real life. Building, moving mountains, becoming a different kind of character, flying, all these are true freedoms that we have here, more so in real life, if at all. But again, look at something like the growth and rise of video games or virtual games, everything from PSPs to Dinner Dash to iPhone Words with Friends. Aren't they all a form of virtual engagement too? Call of Duty, John Madden football, that's not real either. But I would not ever try to pry a game controller out of someone who's in the middle of a touchdown, right? They're completely engrossed. And virtual engagement in Second Life is about spending real time somewhere, even if that environment is constructed out of pixels. And so if we are just pixels here, and just, by the way, is a 4-letter word, then we are also just a bunch of cells in real life. An example, after a first question show one night, a friend started changing their avatar very rapidly in front of me. They went from an Italian Renaissance count to a robot to a Native American maiden to a cockroach, etc., right? And I remember thinking, hey, that's just the same person. And they're just wrapping their avatar with a different skin. And I realized our souls, right? Our skin wraps our souls. It's just a soul wrapping. It's what we are inside that counts. So the question is, are we more ourselves or less so behind this avatar mask? Being an avatar, we are ourselves. So virtual engagement is directly related to a kind of passion, to feelings that we want to, we desire to, we must be here for a variety of reasons. It's an electronic frontier, and the avatar is a form that you must inhabit to be able to enter this world. That's what I would say. It could be akin to saying that, for example, if you wanted to explore the undersea world or deep sea dive, you'd have to put on a snorkel and flippers, right? If you want to explore this world, you have to get pixelated.
Excellent. It sounds like we all need t-shirts that say that. Get pixelated. All right, my next question for you. So I'm repeating, hold on. I'll put it in chat too. So I'm repeating when we think of sticky marketing, what brands need is to be memorable, consistent, foster affinity, demonstrate trustworthiness, and build an emotional connection. How do you know that could be translated into virtual experiences? And you kind of touched a little bit on this.
Well, Zinnia, I love this question, and I'm so glad you asked it. And I sort of give this example. Let's say you're a Heineken drinker, okay? But there's a game called Bowling for Budweisers that you can play where you gain points by knocking down buds in a virtual bowling alley. And you can become an avatar, maybe a little bit fitter than you are in reality, or taller, or whatever your more ideal is. And then there are other people and avatars that you can go to and you can interact with, and it's a fun environment. Chances are you're going to return to play, especially if there was like some loyalty program or points you could store, or even a leaderboard, which a leaderboard win would get you like a coupon for a free 6-pack from a local retailer. Those are a set of rewards for playing with a product that will eventually turn even a lifelong Heineken drinker into someone who would buy a Bud because you are fully engaged with that brand. We made a film. It was one of our first. It was right out the box. And it was called Beer Break. I'll put the link out. I hope I did just put the link out. And it was about surfing and Pacifico beer. And the marketing concept behind it was this. Pacifico rents a sim and creates a virtual Baja, staging a surfing competition that people can participate in from around the world. And so at any time, day or night, someone from their living room can log into a beautiful tropical locale, whether they're in Sweden or anywhere cold and they want someplace warm, right? We log in and we not only have the surfing competition, the winner of which is going to be taken to an actual Baja retreat and showered with Pacifico beer. So it's a way to actually play, engage with, and immerse oneself in the culture of the brand as well as all of its marketing aspects. And by playing with the brand, we become ambassadors of it as well by knowing people around the globe who are Pacifico surfers. We enlarge our worldview and we have fun, all while touting this beer. The final 8 surfers, let's say, would have their own TV-like episodes built out around them, furthering the entertainment factor with their backstories. And for season 2, even more of an advanced open call and auditions to be part of it, the people who will come and surf. And rewarding those who do with coupons for the beer or other freemiums. And I really see this freemium model, which works so well across the board and everything from magazine subscriptions to more, would generate sticky interaction with the product. I think that it would also generate tremendous press and clear branding and identification. I thought that was a great idea, but we were really too far ahead of the curve on that one. So the game shows like The Second Question and The Dating Casino also had the possibility of advertising within the show. I often said that if Lovey was paid to do it, she'd very willingly have smoked Camels and drank Bombay gin martinis throughout the live broadcast of The Dating Casino. Again, in a kind of a throwback to product placement. But if you want to talk about engagement and what people are really willing to give, I think you only have to look at something like Relay for Life and Second Life. You realize that's over $3 million. $3 million. $3 million US
Yes,
raised
amazing.
in the years that it's been staged there. It's all been generated from micropayments, from hundreds of thousands of users. Here. So you talk about support for a brand and identification with something. This is clearly, Relay for Life is a tremendous model. And this attachment is something brands don't fully understand yet. But certainly, given a charity tie for a product or service, I think that we really present a huge and unique opportunity. So the one other thing I want to say, and I'll do it very quickly because I think I'm stuck in the chair, is I'd like to say something about aspirational marketing. In Second Life, you can have that house or heels that we aspire to. And this is a very legitimate call to consumers. I'll give you 2 examples. One is a product like Mercedes-Benz or BMW. A very small portion of the public can actually afford one of these cars, but they advertise all the time. Why? Because this is an aspirational product. Now, in Second Life, you can buy a virtual Mercedes for $4 to $8, an amount most folks could afford. So there could even be a collection. You could have an automobile collection duplicated for people, and they could have an entire garage to rival Jay Leno or Jerry Seinfeld. That's aspirational, but it's also achievable in Second Life. Anyway, what we buy here or own in our virtual inventory does have emotional value. And I'll give you another example, which I think you'll understand, and that's high heels. I don't think I'm the only woman who has a pair of shoes I will never wear again, but that I would never give up because I love them too much. These shoes are what I call, right, aspirational. I aspire to wear them. I might not, but having them means a lot to me. But virtually, I can still wear shoes that I can't in my real life and own sets of pearls and diamonds and emeralds that I don't have in real life. So my avatar represents a form of my aspirational life. And this is also something that advertisers spend huge amounts of money to cultivate. And I often thought this was a tremendously missed opportunity for many retailers. Many will be looking to virtual reality and the new kind of glasses for that. But one of the things I also enjoy about Second Life is that while I have a 360-degree world in front of me, clearly I can step away from the keyboard at any time if I want to. And so to really answer your question, I think people will want to star in their own cartoon movies and advance their own narrative. I think brands and marketers could give people the storyline in which to develop that here.
Wonderful. And I agree with you. There are objects that I have in world that I could never afford out. And it's a way for me to pay homage to their designs, like my Ames lounge chair. All right, my next question. Do you think experiences will replace entertainment?
Well, experiences are entertainment, you know. Watching a show is also experiencing it. But I think we've come a long way from sit back and relax and just enjoy the show, right, to being really on the edge of our seats. We're playing video games that engross us, or being involved in something live and online that also engrosses us. We are part of the action now, and I don't think that will ever change. I do think there's a huge possibility still for virtual real-time live online games to be played, but not necessarily shooting games. I don't know about you, but for me, the world has become a scary enough place that additional stimulation of my fear center is not really what I want. Well, let's say that games and interaction can also be about building stuff, not destroying it. And for that, you look at someone like Will Wright. Will Wright was developing a part of a game, and instead of where things could be blown up, but within that game there was a helicopter rescue squad, and a fraction or a faction of the players wanted to rescue people. They wanted to help people. They didn't want to destroy. They wanted to build. And I believe that was the core spark that led him to want to build The Sims. Because this is part of the human psyche, to want to build and not destroy. And I think that there's tremendous, tremendous hope for that. And look at all the building games of immense popularity that there are. So the type of experiences that I'm looking for are the kinds of mentally and intellectually challenging games that people could play together. So one of the things I loved about the first question in the dating casino was the audience's ability to interact and text out loud what they were thinking and feeling. And oftentimes it was just incredibly valuable and hilarious. You know, I'll give you an example. Jeopardy. Hey, people play along. Have you ever watched Jeopardy and shouted at the television screen? Yeah, of course you have. The game shows allowed us to do that and be part of it in a fun, colorful environment. Plus, we all felt we could be part of the show. Hey, you cannot shout out to Alex Trebek in real life, but you absolutely could get the Wolfman Hydra Shafto on my show to notice you, right? So I would love like to do a dating casino in real time and also have the Second Life version going on at the same time. How amazing would it be to reinforce programming by doing it locally, bar, restaurant, club, and also having the Second Life version streaming in-world and out-world. It's kind of a form of an expansion pack. And I also thought of like products conducting tests. You can make a decision about, how everyone loves those little personality tests in the magazine, where you could log in and through a series of deciding this room over another room or this environment over, you find your perfect, cologne or perfume or magazine. There are just so many kinds of brand offerings that we could get going. That's just another idea. Again, we were just a bit ahead of the curve with that.
Nothing wrong with being ahead of the curve. And, you have been for such a long time. Today I was sharing with my colleagues who you were and what kind of work you've done. And so I was explaining to them how you've done films that are exciting episodes. So how do you establish a narrative that will entice your audience, not just to watch more, but to actually actively explore the places you film?
Well, I'll be honest, that would take a form of sponsorship that we haven't seen yet. I'd really love some of the $360 billion that's going to VR to be applied in an already set up environment like this that really works. Time Travelers, for example, is a series that if we had the financing for, could have established itself with virtual outposts. I mean, the sets would be up all the time. The series is aimed at high school students, and if there was a way to allow them entry onto the sets, they could have defeated the pattern and the mechs in their own way too. It could have been set up as a game with clues and various assets and props. Teams could have been built through individual schools to save the future, all the while giving kids an agency over their own lives, right? An ability to pick up something and run with it and get out of a tight situation. We find that what we do virtually really does enable us to achieve in the real world. Maintaining virtual outposts are not expensive. And again, it's really a great use of money if there are supporting players. I mean, you need people there to welcome the avatars and help them. You need the team and the things that support it. For example, we play video games all the time to get jewels, to get virtual jewels, right? And they're not even 3D. You can't even hold them. They're just in a flat screen. And they're very flat, those games. But that's sticky and it attracts. And we're still on the forefront of people being able to get those things in a virtual world and export it in some way to the real world. I mean, given the Time Travelers example, had those things been possible, it would have also been possible through 3D printing to be able to rack up, let's say, enough points to get an actual 3D printed asset from the series as a collectible. This is something that a kid could show their friends. Hey, this is like the net I captured the spider mech with virtually. Like there's a picture of me, a screenshot, and here I am actually holding it in real life. How amazingly cool would that be? So establishing a narrative within a virtual environment means that environment becomes a reality, although a virtual one, if that makes sense. So playing along with us here is enticing. And something else that could come up, I mean, the ability to meet, let's say, people or famous people attached to a project who are in an avatar form does not reduce the excitement of meeting them. And just look at any of the Ebby Linden or Philip Rosedale appearances in World. I mean, people just want to be near them, even virtually. So establishing a series means that those avatars could be met in Second Life too, or that you too could wear a glowing holographic avatar like Sebastian, who is one of the lead figures in the time travelers. Watch it. It's on YouTube. So this is an entire marketing concept where people do play and involve themselves with the action. Having appointment internet would only add to that too. In other words, things are happening at a certain time and place in Second Life. You've got to be there. So I've come to think, and I've thought this for a long time, it's about what we do here, not what we watch. It takes some effort. It should. But that effort can be rewarded in so many ways, in community, in commercial activity, aspiration, and of course, recognition.
Wonderful. In the Time Travelers episodes, I show my students, and it's always so much fun for them. So thank you for producing those.
Thank you.
Okay, my next question. Chat too. So, looking forward to the future, what or who influences your business and maybe all of our efforts in immersive environments?
Okay, I'd say Merv Griffin continues to be an influence on me. I'd love to be like the Merv Griffin of the internet, but I really think that games like The Price is Right, which has actually been on TV since 1956, has a life through virtual engagement. We are still, in many ways, human 1.0. We must learn anew in each of our lifetimes, and we do so at our youngest, most stupidest, and most vulnerable. For example, if you want to learn about jets or even space travel, you don't have to go back and make an airplane. However, as a baby just born, you do have to relearn everything. You can't just download Gandhi or Martin Luther King for wisdom or being human or humane. It's learned each lifetime. And I think this is part of why we can't seem to get out of our own way. I am always of the opinion, again, that it's what we do here that matters, how we spend our time that matters. But I'm not looking at folks like Mary Meeker or Mr. Rosedale, though at this point I'd like to team up with people who have the background to put some of the ideas that I speak of into motion. I do see a huge market for niche programming played in and by people who want to be immersed with others for, let's say, a relatively short period of time. I think the old Ed Sullivan model of everybody's watching exactly the same thing on Sunday night at 8 p.m. is not today's entertainment paradigm. Not with binge watching, right? And YouTube channels, for example. But when you think about education and unique virtual learning type of channels, this is very exciting because we could actually have teams of players from all over the country or even around the world trying to build an engine or trying to build a better model of something. I mean, these are real hands-on things that kids could do. As again, from the privacy and safety of their PC. So the other thing that influences me, I have to be honest, is that I like a little quiet time because that's when I try to clear my mind and ideas are generated, or how can I overcome certain obstacles or come to the fact that certain things can't be done right now. But I am forever in need of that mega time prim when that extra hour and day in the week can be had with a mega time prim. When is that coming? Please tell me.
We all need that.
Oh my God, we so do.
That would be awesome. So that's perfect because you do need time for the next question. In this cookie cutter world, please share with us about how your physical artwork remains fresh and unique, and you have some on display on the stage.
Thank you. See, I brought the poster of the cookie I made of you.
Yay! I love it.
I do too. I love her. And anyone in the audience can just click on any of these posters and take a copy too, by the way. This is your gift for being in world with me. You can get these right here. I don't know if you can get them on YouTube. Anyway, it's interesting that I Yes, they're cookies. The Garbo is a real cookie, and the Zinnia is a real cookie. But it's interesting to me that I kind of went back to my roots. I'd been making cookies since 1988, 30 years, when I had a printed cookie business. It was Butler Baking and then the Cookie Studio. And I created, in effect, my own little cookie world. So I'm a creator, right? I'm a creator and a creator of worlds. And as creators, we create. So I wanted to make the figurative work really sing, and it's taken me over a year to finesse the dough or to coax it the way I want. You can see the growth from the Zinnia cookie, let's say, to the Garbo cookie, and get the sculptural likeness. But there are many things in this. My reach should always exceed my grasp. I always want to improve on what I'm doing. And I would like to quote Herman Melville, who wrote in his great book, Moby Dick, something I've never forgotten. And it says, "For small erections may be finished by their first architects, grand ones, true ones, ever leave the copestone to posterity. God, help me from ever completing anything." And right, what I take from that is that great work is never fully finished because it is always going to inspire other people. It will always live. It will always be in the process of becoming something else, being taken to another time and place. So if I have one thing to offer, maybe that's this, and that's I try to listen with my eyes, and I try to hear both what I'm making, and I also get to some kind of granular or atomic level of what the thing is actually made of, and I try to become it. So I'm constantly asking myself, how is this really put together? How is what I'm making really made? I'm a closet engineer, and I love to figure out how stuff works or how to interpret something from life into cookie dough. Now, I'm making my own little world here. I've always thought that we as human beings are very close to God because what we can think of, we can create. This is a tremendous power and a tremendous gift, and it's what people in Second Life come to realize, that we can create things bigger than ourselves. It's a stunning thing to realize. And if I might add, it's important to try. You know, you will never be as good the first time as the 100th time when you first begin. But also in those first steps, you cannot lose because you're learning with each one. You just have to start. And it doesn't matter if you get it 100% right the first time. You're not going to. So there's a lot of freedom in that. There's just tremendous freedom in creation, and I try to bring the unique and freshness that we are as human beings to what I do.
Well, and making cookies, you absolutely get to enjoy the stickiness.
Right.
They're beautiful, and I appreciate you sharing that with everyone because people need to hear that. They can't expect to be perfect and absolutely 100% right. Absolutely. They need to play and experiment. So thank you for sharing that. Okay, next question.
You can't lose. Must try. Right. I'm sorry.
No. But isn't it? It's hard. We have so many things that we could share with people that we now know. You know, that we've had these experiences. So that kind of leads into this next question. What advice would you give someone new to entertainment that you wish someone had told you?
Find a sponsor before you spend any time on this. Only if you want to make money. Because there's that dream, right? That's how we're all judged, right? It's about money. And sometimes that can be at odds with the creation or the freedom of creation. How many things would never have been made if it was only with the thought that this would be a monetary item? So, there's a balance. but if you want to do it, you've got to do it. And because of the experience I had in another virtual world that brought me here, I had the experience to do the shows. I had learned quite a bit before, but some things something else that you have to be aware of is that something in your life is going to give, because the time, effort in creating something here, like the shows and getting the people soundtracked and making sure everybody's going to show up on time, and the sets and the scripting, it's not nothing. It's substantial. The thing is that you all make it look easy, right? But behind the scenes, everybody is really running around quite at the edge of their, right, at their fingers and seats and hands and everything, because it takes a lot of work to pull off something like this in real time. So, figure out what you don't have to do in real life. Don't give up too much, food or sleep, and please remember to call your mother. But something is going to give. And also it's very, very important to have someone you trust that you can work with, a team as possible, because you are going to need to vent. It's a bit stressful to be live and online in the shows or to make machinima films. There are so many moving parts. Anything can go wrong. So support is key. And I'm going to say right now, I could not have done what I did without Rob Wag Soothsayer or Russell Boyd, who filmed, directed, and edited the Pooky Media films by and large. I couldn't have done it with the shows without Pet Love Pet Shop or MOE or Cat Chew Kit, who's greatly missed. We all work to our strength. But when I realized I could do shows in Second Life, I jumped on that immediately. And I was very lucky to meet the people that I did. And the other thing I'd like to say is you got to trust your gut. Life is about personal achievement and our human relationships with other people. Whether or not they're an avatar or standing behind the counter somewhere or you're related to them. Success in life isn't always measured by Bitcoin or any other currency really, other than if we did what we wanted to do and if we made the world just a little bit better somehow by doing just that. And I want to thank you.
That's wonderful. Yeah, that's wonderful. And, something that's been a theme throughout the show this season has been, finding your tribe and team to support you through everything. So thank you for saying that, and that's been such a big asset for you and your success.
We are all in this together, and none of us are who we are without whom we have known in our lifetimes. And I would never have met some of the amazing people who have moved me and taught me, and God made me laugh and a much better person than I am without my how many years without my multiple years in Second Life, and knowing you, and of course Bevan and Kevin and Mal and Bixel and just so many people. I'm just very grateful, very lucky. Thank you.
Thank you. So I'm trying to see. Oh, there. Can you hear me now? We're just talking about learning from those mistakes. Yay. Okay. Thank you very much, Pooky. I would like to let the audience have an opportunity maybe to ask you a question. And if they could put it in nearby chat, that would be fantastic for us. Does anyone have a question for Pooky?
Just text it out. Is there any little thing you want to ask Pukatella? Pukatella you all.
Well, they may be a little shy. Oh, here we go. Oh, that's a good question.
Sure, of course I'll come back for a future podcast interview. This has been delightful, but I will change my outfit. It's just, it has been so wonderful and fun and enlightening to be a part of this virtual experience. Yes, it's it's unique. Zinnia, it's hard to describe it though to other people, isn't it? They say, "Oh, I have a first life," and sometimes I think, "Yes, and you're not dressing very well in that one either." No, come with me to Boston.
I've seen how I've absolutely seen how, bringing people in world, they actually start changing how they are physically. They realize that they can switch from sweatpants to nice suits. And it makes a difference in how they feel about themselves too, don't you think?
I mean, and just the fact that you can import the textures and colors and build your own environment. I have a John Singer Sargent painting of one of my heroes, Frederick Law Olmsted, in my virtual house. I couldn't have that in my not at this point anyway. Couldn't have something like that in my real house, but it's mine, and we have that feeling of ownership, and it's nobody was hurt or exploited in getting it. Yes. Oh, that's so great.
Yeah, I like that. Well, I like the fact that, since I make apparel in the physical world, people can buy objects of mine here, and then they can wear them out in the world.
I think one thing is, no Second Life skews a bit older, and I often thought about why. And, when you're 15 or 25 or 35, you kind of think you can do anything, right? It's really all wide open. Let's say a little bit older in life, you begin to realize there are parameters, there are restrictions. And that's why I think the great freedom, which is available in Second Life, appeals to possibly older generations, because we can open it up. We can do so much that we know the real in the physical life restricts us with.
That's very true. That's very true. Does anyone have a question besides demands on what I need to set up for Bevan?
I know it's hard to say goodbye, but we're going to have to do that.
I know. Well, I want to say, Pooky, I so appreciate you joining us and sharing your experiences and inspiring so many people with your films and shows. It really makes a difference because, your success helps all of us in world and out.
Yep. Zinnia, I give you a big hug, and that's for real. You can hear it in my voice.
Absolutely. And that's what makes this environment so important, because it is real and we have those emotional connections, which make us awfully sticky. So thank you.
It's amazing. It's amazing to be connected across time, space, and everything. And that's so valuable. That's the human connection that we need and we go to. So big hugs and thank you. I did work, did some work with Hong Kong. Bixel asked a question about been in any current SL Machinima projects. We did do some stuff with Hong Kong University, and they're really exciting, and what they are doing in terms of using their sim and virtual environment to reach people involved in everything from textiles, math, engineering, learning English. It's incredibly powerful, and the videos are on my channel, Pooky Media, on YouTube. And I also was working on a political message. I'm still kind of working on that, and I don't want to talk too much about that because I do respect that we have differences in this day and age. Although I really urge everyone to hold on to their humanity and vote blue. I'm sorry, did that come
That
out?
was so subtle, Pooky. Well, I want to say something, Pooky, that your machinima that you did for the Hong Kong University, I showed in my class, and it inspired my students to do their machinima this last term. You really, got a fire under them with your work, so thank you very much, because they produced something really beautiful because of that.
Big hugs.
Big hugs, everyone, and thank you so much for joining us inside the Avatar Studio. Thank you to our audience here and our audience out there. And thank you to the whole team. Thank you, Kevin and Mal and Bevan and everyone. Hugs to everyone.